What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy, Kevin, back with our guy, Damon. And we have a very special guest today on a Monday. Justin Spears will be joining us on the other side of this countdown. We're talking spring ball. It's not all basketball today, but we are going to talk about some surprising exits, some unsurprising exits. Don't go anywhere. It's the AZ Wildcats podcast in 30 seconds.
We are live from Studio K, presented by our friends over at Circle K. It is the AZ Wildcats podcast here at PHNX Studios. I'm Damon Fairall. He is Kevin Thomas. And Kevin, we got a lot to talk about today. We got a lot of football news that's going on. We're going to bring in our guy Justin Spears here in a second. Tons of basketball transfer portal stuff to get into.
Maybe too much.
Yeah,
transfer portal stuff.
Maybe a little bit too much. Shout out everybody here in the chat already. Like I already put up here in the chat. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Luke, we appreciate you. Shout out Luke, always here. Erica, holding it down. And yeah, we're going to get into it today. But without further ado, why don't we bring on our guy, Justin Spears here, Kevin, to talk a little bit of spring football update. And Justin, history has now been made on this fine program of ours. You've done about 4 or 5 appearances on this show now, being a part of our family, and we love having you. And somehow I have not been a part of a single one of those yet. So kind of felt like maybe there was like an avoidance thing going on. I don't know who's from whose side, but finally, bringing this trio together that we haven't seen before.
Now I feel like the final Infinity Stone has been added, Damon. Because Kevin and I, we do a great job when it's just us two. But when we add the dog in the mix, it's too perfect, man. So, yeah. Damon, I'm glad that we can finally make history. I'm glad to finally do the AZ Wildcats podcast with you, my friend.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast having Justin on throughout the season, getting just kind of the inside scoop, boots on the ground, look at, what's going on with Arizona athletics. And Justin, I guess we'll start with just kind of the vibes out at spring football. We haven't talked to you for a minute here. I mean, obviously spring football started a couple weeks ago, right? And, it's been very basketball focused on this show in particular, but what are just some of kind of the prevailing narratives that are coming out of spring football right now?
Well, the offense is running at a totally different pace than last year. Last year, the offense was just so slow and lethargic and just bad. Like even getting out of the huddle, these guys looked really slow. And then you had these long routes, like these concepts, just had these guys running down the field. There was no snappiness to it. There was no, there wasn't really like an intent to get the ball out of Noah Fafita's hands in a quick manner. And this year, under new offensive coordinator Seth Doege, the offense is like, no, we're going to try to get the ball into the playmakers' hands, the slot receivers, running backs are going to be used more in the passing game. Last year, it was the fewest receiving yards for Arizona's running backs since like 2018. So if you look at, over the last several years, the running backs have been a huge part of the passing game. That 2023 season, heck, even 2022, Michael Wiley was such an effective running back in the passing game. They didn't have that element last year. So now with Kedrick Arsenault coming back as a veteran running back, and then you add in Ismail Mahdi out of Texas State. I like Mike Mitchell out of Utah, Quincy Craig from Portland State. He looks like a really good running back. Like using those guys in the passing game is going to be so important. And I think just getting the ball out of Noah Fafita's hands is definitely one of the most encouraging signs that I've seen out of camp this year. And the speed that they have at wide receiver. Yes, they don't have Tetairoa McMillan. And Arizona probably won't get a wide receiver like Tetairoa McMillan for 50 years, right? Like that's a once-in-a-generation prospect. But I think by committee, Arizona is going to have more speed than they've had at that position in quite a long time. And, you're not going to have the ultimate playmaker in a guy like T-Mac, but I think some of the slot receivers that they have the potential to really make this offense go. And then, I mean, everything that I'm talking about here regarding the offense, it doesn't matter if the offensive line doesn't protect. And now you got to replace Big Jonah Savianaya, who's one of the best offensive linemen in recent history, along with Jordan Morgan. You're losing, Big Josh Baker at center, who is freaking just an absolute anchor and a mainstay in that offensive line over the last several years. Like Alexander Deuce, if you look at like snap counts, Alexander Deuce is Arizona's most experienced offensive lineman coming back. So that kind of shows you where that unit is at right now. And he played his first collegiate snaps last year. So there's some questions on the offensive line. I like Tristan Bounds at tackle, the transfer from Michigan. I like Ty Buchanan, a.k.a. the vegetarian offensive lineman, getting in the mix there as well. So I like what the offense is doing, but my goodness, they are so much faster than last year, and that's a good sign.
Yeah, you started off talking about the running backs there, and you mentioned like the passing game and kind of how they figured into that. One thing that's interesting is like you look at Quayle Conley last year, and he was the third leading receiver on the team with 245 receiving yards, which, for those of you doing math at home, that's a pretty low total per game for you to be the third leading receiver on your football team. So definitely going to need to find a way to get just not only, but as you mentioned with the receivers, just like getting just other people involved in the passing game, because it was really somewhat of a one-man show. But you feel from being out there, I know that I don't want to turn this into like, oh, this guy wasn't good enough last year, but I do feel like the running backs have to be better this year. They have to take a step up. We're seeing Kedrick Reesano out there taking some snaps at the ones. Ishmael Ahmadi, obviously the big transfer. How do you see that position battle kind of playing out with those other guys on the peripheral as well, like Mike Mitchell and Craig that you talk about?
Kedrick Reesano finally played collegiate snaps last year, and while he didn't have these eyebrow-raising numbers, he still was thrusted into this kind of leadership role alongside with Quayle Conley. Almost called him Quail. Almost pulled a Rod Gilmore and called my guy Quail. But Quayle, he was the leader once Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt had his whole eligibility issues. And then Kedrick Reesano, after Rayshon Speedy Luke decided to transfer, he was like, okay, I'm going from the number 3, number 4 back to now the bona fide number 2. And so I think that his production last year, I mean, by, I guess, running back standards was a little underwhelming, but I think you can gain a lot from having legit college experience. And I think Kedrick is going to learn from that. And he's built like a truck. Like he looks like a linebacker out there playing running back. So I think him as the headliner is going to be great. But honestly, I think this Ishmael Ahmadi guy is legit. And I'm not saying he's going to pretty much be what Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt would have been, but like I'm seeing some flashes, man, of this guy being really good. I mean, he's really patient, works well with the offensive lineman. Like he's a very patient runner, knows when to pick his pockets and go. And he's got some speed too. And not only is he going to be useful running the ball, but he's also a really good receiver. Showed it at Texas State. And then also as a returner too, the guy was unbelievable. I think him and Javen Watley could arguably be Arizona's best returners. But I think Arizona's running back group is going to be in a really good spot. Now, they don't, at least as far as I know, they don't got to worry about eligibility issues. They don't got another Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt situation coming up here. As long as they can stay healthy, then I think they can improve. Are they going to be the best running team in the Big 12? No, but I think they'd definitely be a lot better than second to last.
Yeah, so you talk about that running room improving over last year, and you talk about how important a guy like Ishmael Ahmadi is and fulfilling that potential that you spoke to. What is there a surprise on the offense that you kind of identified, like maybe a player that might surprise some people this upcoming season, overperform maybe what we expected when Arizona added them to the roster?
So I am going to be very, very careful here because, last year, if you were to tell me, all right, what's your biggest, takeaway from the spring? I'm like, Jeremiah Patterson is the next Jacob Cowing. Like Jeremiah Patterson was just carving up Arizona's defense all spring long. And, there's still opportunity for him to get into that mix. He's still in there at slot receiver too, so maybe he can learn from his mistakes this past season and get back into that role. But man, Jeremiah Patterson, he was wearing the number 2 jersey, number 2. I'm like, this guy, he's not going to be like Jacob Cowing, but man, he's going to be Arizona's second best receiver. And then he didn't really do much this last year. So I'm going to be very careful when I'm putting these expectations on these guys here. But I think really the guys on offense that have really stood out to me have been the guy that I just mentioned, Javen Watley, the transfer from Chattanooga. The guy is freaking fast. I mean, he is fast, and has kind of, I'm not going to say carved up Arizona's starting secondary, but in terms of like one-on-one battles, he's won a few of those reps against some savvy veterans and some of Arizona's best defensive players. So I think Javen Watley out of Chattanooga has been great. And, when we talk about, that receiver position, I like the additions of Luke Wysong from New Mexico. I think he's going to be a dog and a guy that's going to make have a ton of production while he's here at Arizona. But like we talk about T-Mac and who's going to be those guys that replace him on the outside as that big bodied receiver. I think Trey Spivey is probably going to be your leader in the clubhouse to start at that position, the transfer from Kansas State. It was cool to see his dad, Junior Spivey, out on the sidelines, former Arizona Diamondback, former Tucson Sidewinder. Dane knows what I'm talking about. You went to TEP growing up.
Of course.
Junior Spivey was out at practice the other day to watch his son. And Trey, he is all of 6'4", 6'5", 210 pounds. I mean, this guy looks legit, power 4, big body receiver. And then another kind of big body guy that's been making some plays has been Brandon Phelps out of Phoenix.
Okay. No.
He is a redshirt freshman. And if you look at his numbers from high school, some of your listeners, some of our viewers are probably gonna be like, who's Brandon Phelps? Well, this guy is one of the best receivers in Arizona high school football history. Like straight up at American Leadership Academy in Gilbert, he ended his career with the most receiving yards, most touchdowns, and most receptions in Arizona high school football history. So the guy's got the numbers.
A career triple crown is insane.
That's insane, right? Now, I think he doesn't own it right now. I don't know what exactly Desmond Roebuck broke in his last year at Marana. I think it was receptions and maybe something else. But Brandon Phelps doesn't own the Triple Crown anymore, but still, like, career record holder and all of that. Like, Brandon Phelps was that dude. And he redshirted last year. We didn't really see him on the field. And then this year so far, man, he has been really awesome to see. Catching deep balls. He's got great ball skills. He can jump up and, high point some catches, catching traffic. I didn't really have any expectations for Brandon Phelps this year, but so far in spring, he's made some plays where you're like, it's not T-Mac, but it's T-Mac-esque. And that's a really good sign from a redshirt freshman. So look out for Brandon Phelps to maybe move up the depth chart here in whether it's the spring or training camp.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, but I believe Brandon Phelps is one of the few early enrollee Jed Fish guys that stuck around with the coaching staff change. And like, I remember there was some rumors swirling about, Dillingham and ASU trying to kind of get in there last minute and get him to flip, when that whole situation was kind of going down, but stuck it out at Arizona. And I think, he definitely a fun player to project, could be a good player down the road. Definitely. I wanted to go to the offensive line, Justin, because there's going to be a lot of guys and a lot of movement on this position unit in terms of, losing Jonas Savanea, losing Josh Baker. You don't have the Jordan Morgan, piece that you had 2 years ago. So, they had an insane offensive line and many of those guys are gone, right? So now you have Deuced as your, big experienced guy coming back. But that center position, and you actually wrote an article on it, Justin, is, Josh McCauley and Josh Baker were the guys for the better part of, 5 seasons?
6 years.
6 seasons. Yeah. So, that's a big spot that you got to feel in a big leadership position. What are you seeing regarding the center position and just the offensive line as a whole, really?
Yeah, that's going to be a really tough void to fill because, Josh Baker, I didn't even realize like how consistent that position was until I really dove into the Pro Football Focus stats. And we're talking about, I think like roughly like 5,300 or 5,400 snaps played between two guys between 2018 and 2024. I think Arizona from 2018 to 2024 They played 78 games. Josh Baker and Josh McCauley started 75 of those games. So that's
Wow.
a pretty consistent position. A guy, those two guys have been holding down that center spot for several years. Now, I will say this: Arizona's next center probably won't be named Josh. That was the trend here for the last couple of years or last several years. But I do like some of the pieces they added. I do have some concerns, but Grayson Stovall, he's from Chandler Hamilton High School, has been kind of patiently waiting his turn, has been the backup to Josh Baker for the last 3 years now. He's been taking reps with the ones. So he's right there vying for that starting role. I don't know what to make of him, right? Because we've only seen a few team periods. He started a game last year against NAU. I think the offense as a whole, that whole game against NAU was just dog crap. So I'm not going to sit here and say Grayson Stovall played a bad game. And plus, that was his first career start, too. So, you're going to have Grayson Stovall right there in the mix. Kaina DeKembra, he's a transfer from Hawaii. He played guard and tackle at Hawaii. He never played center, but they tried to give him some reps and a few low snaps. And if you can't consistently snap the ball, you're not going to be playing center. And so Kaina DeKembra, I'm not sure about him. Issei Matautia, the transfer from New Mexico, he redshirted last year. He was Noah Fafita's teammate at Anaheim Servite High School. He played guard. He didn't play center. So you don't really have guys with center experience on your team. Isaac Perez, the transfer from Portland State, he's got some center experience, but I'm not really sure what to think about him because, again, it's so early in the spring. But one thing that I will say could happen is Chuba Ma'ai moving from nose tackle to center. And Chuba has been playing defensive tackle his entire collegiate career, but when he was being recruited out of Long Beach Poly High School, if you look at his 24/7 sports account, he was being recruited to play center. He's got center experience, but then went and played defensive lineman at the next level. So maybe he moves over, and the reason why I bring that up is because during Saturday's practice, he changed jersey colors. So he went from white to blue, which is the offensive number or color. And then now he's wearing number 55, no longer a defensive lineman number. That's more of like an interior offensive lineman number. And he was observing and kind of working with the offensive line while the defensive line were on the other side of the field. So you can kind of put the pieces together. I asked Arizona offensive line coach Josh Oglesby about the move, and he said, I'll let Coach Brennan address that. So you can kind of, put the pieces together and figure out that maybe Chuba Ma'ai is going to be playing offensive line, maybe center. But I do worry, though, because Chuba, he's kind of a bigger boy, right? He's like 350 pounds.
Yeah.
When he first got to Arizona, he was pushing 4 bills. I mean, straight up, like 370, 380 type. So he's dropped some weight. I will give him a ton of credit, but to play in Seth Daigie's offense, especially as a center, because you got to get to the ball and you got to line up, is he going to be conditioned enough to play that spot? So we'll see. But center is so important. Josh Baker has been that rock solid guy right there in the middle for the last several years now, and that's a big hole to fill. But they got some guys that are in there working right now.
It's been a long time, Kevin, when we bring up Josh McCauley, Josh Baker. I was in the building when both of those guys were when Josh McCauley was starting pretty much the entire time I was working for the team, and Josh Baker was in fact in the building. So it's been quite a bit here. But yeah, the center position is going to be an interesting one to watch play out.
No
Justin,
doubt,
I had a quick question for you in terms of the offensive line last season. You spoke to Noah Fafita's level of comfortability within the offense and the differences between Daigie's offense and Dino Babers' offense as well. What does Noah Fafita's level of comfortability look like in relation to his offensive line in the spring so far? Like, does he, like, I know at times fans wondered last season if he felt protected, if he had a quick trigger trying to get out of the pocket or whatnot. So how does Noah Fafita look behind the new look offensive line?
I think that the offensive line is still kind of working itself out here a little bit. They're trying to figure out, what side of the ball is Tristan Bounds and Ty Buchanan going to play? What's going to happen with Rhino Tapatotai when he gets back? Because, he's overcoming that ACL injury and he's not a part of their mix right now. But when a guy like that comes back, I would imagine he's going to be right there, probably going to start. So, what's going to happen? But I think so far what I've seen in camp is, the offensive line, they're holding their own against Arizona's defensive line. But I would say the defense is probably ahead of the offense. I've seen a lot of TFLs. I've seen Trey Smith and Chase Kennedy, and a lot of these guys get to Noah Fafita. So good news is defensive line looks great. But bad news is offensive line, it could definitely use some work. But I think what they're trying to do right now is they're trying to figure out what guy plays what position the best, right? Because like when Tristan Bounds, when he took reps at left tackle one practice, didn't do so hot, gave up some pressures, gave up a sack, but then they moved him over to the right side and he excelled on that side. So it's so weird how you just move from one side of the line to the other and boom, you look fantastic. So I think even though the offensive line is going through some kinks right now, some growing pains, I think they're just trying to figure out, okay, where do these guys sit at the table? And then once they figure that out, I think they're going to be in a really good spot.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I know you've been out there to tons of spring balls and whatnot. I feel like that's pretty consistent with what I've typically seen, which is it's easier for the defense to kind of just pin their ears back and maybe, the offensive line needs a little bit more chemistry and continuity before they figure things out. But it is an encouraging sign, at least, that the defense is showing up and providing that challenge for the offense. But Justin, we appreciate your time here. Was there anything else out there at spring football we didn't hit on that you wanted to touch on real quick before we get you out of here?
Nah, man. Honestly, it's crazy to see the engagement that Arizona football is having right now with the community, the autograph sessions, the coaches clinic. It was cool to see Antonio Pierce back in the building for the first time, and I don't know
Bear down
how
as
long.
always.
As always.
It's crazy to hear that and to see that. And, when Antonio Pierce left Arizona, the head coach at the time, John Makovic, told him, like, yeah, you can't train here. You can't work out here and get ready for your pro day here. Mm-hmm. And so that left a sour taste in his mouth. And, previous coaching regimes didn't really reach out to AP. And then, of course, when he was at ASU with Sumlin and Jed Fish and all them, like, they were definitely not going to reach out to Antonio Pierce. So for Brent Brennan to, I guess, mend that relationship and get Antonio Pierce back in the building. Like, think about this, guys. Antonio Pierce is inducted into the Arizona Stadium Ring of Honor. He had no idea until he was a visiting coach in 2018 about that. Wow. And like during pregame warmups, he was like, "Oh, hell, that's cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome." So to see AP rock the block A and say bear down was so interesting and so cool to see. And the coaches clinic had 225 coaches there. Last year, they had roughly 70. So they're doing a really good job of going out into the community, extending the invitation to local high school football coaches. And I think when you have that relationship and you have that open door policy, that can carry you a long way in a city like Tucson, Arizona. So I think last year they learned, okay, we need to get out there as much as possible. And now they're doing it and they're being active, and it's really great to see. So
yeah, it's unfortunate that they had to have that grace period, but I think that the bright side of things is that they are realizing their mistakes and trying to fix it. If you look at maybe like a Kevin Sumlin in that staff, there was more of an apathy, I feel like, around just kind of the vibe around the football program, whereas I feel like this staff really does care and they want to do their best. It wasn't a great season one by any stretch of the imagination, but they're doing everything and pulling out all the stops here in year two to try to turn this thing around. He is Justin Spears. You could follow him at Justin E. Spears. Is that right?
Yeah, Justin E. Sports.
Justin E. Sports. Gotcha. I will have that ready to go next time. And
first time having to pull that name out the hat there, Damon. It's okay.
Oh yeah, I mean you get it, Kevin. But Justin, we appreciate you as always. Give him a follow. He'll continue his great work covering the football program. Spears and Ollie every morning as well. And we'll talk to you next week, Justin.
See you next year, Damon.
Well, Kevin, we'll do a little quick football recap and just kind of talk about what our guy talked about, and then also go into some basketball transfer portal. We'll do that right here after the break on the AZ Wildcats podcast.
Well, Damon Dog, one thing that everyone in this chat should be getting behind is getting you into either your next, your dream, or your first home. And our friends over at Carol Royce can help you with that today. They have the best lenders, best advisors in the entire market. Carol can also help you look at off-the-market homes. That's right. Nothing else you can find in your regular app store home buyer, right? This is exclusive off-the-market homes you can only get with our friends over at Carol Royce. And not only that, they're good people too. They have your best interests in mind. They came into our office and broke down the importance of buying a home to each and every one of us. And they even offered their assistance to us here in the PHNX office. So please hit up our friends over at Carol Royce. Like I said, Damon Dog, if you're ready to find your dream home, take the next step. Write this number down. Call Carol Royce at 480-776-5231 or visit Carol online at carolroyceteam.com and tell them PHNX sent you. That's carolroyceteam.com. Those terms and conditions do apply.
I'm going to be hitting up Carol Royce after I win big at Gila River Resorts. And
Yeah, you
Kevin.
are, Damon Dog.
That's my plan.
Betting on the crown tonight.
That's my plan in life. That is true, Kevin. There is college basketball tonight. It may not be the Final Four, and it may be horrible basketball teams, but I will be watching and I will be gambling. Maybe I should head on over to Wild Horse Pass, hit up the BetMGM Sportsbook, the biggest sportsbook in the state of Arizona, and get some bets in there. Nothing like a live betting slip. And there's also nothing like Cardinals draft day watch parties, Kevin. We were out there last year, 300 people chanting "Hold the Line." Goosebumps, Kevin. Literally goosebumps. We had people make their own Hold the Line shirts. It was
That's
insane.
wild. That's wild.
This year, we're thinking about making it even more crazy. Might not have the 4th overall pick, might not have Marvin Harrison Jr. in the fold, but I'll tell you what we do have. Johnny Venerable, Bo Brock, the PHNX Cardinals listeners, and the Upper Deck Swing Suite up there at Wild Horse Pass, Gila River Resorts and Casinos. It is the absolute best. They have all the live table games, the sportsbook, the concert venues, spa, pool, anything that you could want in a casino, Gila River has in store. And guess what? If you're a diehard and you want to go to that watch party, you're going to receive 20% off. See where T-Mac gets drafted, see where Jonas Avenea gets drafted. Hang out with us. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playathila.com for more details. Is Luke Luke, how old are you? Like 19? I'm pretty sure that he's like, that's why, like, he's in.
I think maybe my take, before he gets in the chat and says this, my take is that Luke has won so much at this Pacific casino that I think maybe like some casinos locally were like, brother, you're too sharp, get out of our casino.
I thought that you were going to talk about like maybe like he's like a
counting cards,
he's like
or
a
something,
former felon or something. And, like,
I mean, who knows? Maybe
they have him banned on the sports books.
Maybe Damon Dog, maybe.
Was there anything in that Justin Spears interview that stood out to you real quick before we dive into basketball for the rest of the show?
Yeah, Chuba possibly changing from D-line to O-line.
Yeah.
And not only from D-line to O-line, from D-line to center. Really perked my ears up, Damon, as well. And it also sounds like, just quick, it also sounds like the offensive skill group positions, the skill position groups, are looking improved as well. So I love when Justin Spears comes on here and gives us good news, and it sounded like that was a lot of positives to take away from early spring ball stuff.
Luke in here with the God no. I don't know if that's in reference.
I think it's
to,
in reference to me saying he's winning everything.
Generational wealth, or me saying he's a former convicted felon.
It kind of works for both, huh?
Yeah, it does.
I hope it works for both, or at least the form.
He goes yes to the second one.
Yeah,
but yeah, that was interesting. I did find that very interesting. I think what Justin said, though, about conditioning is definitely something you're going to have to factor in there. Like, Chuba Mai looked out of shape last season playing nose tackle, which is a little bit easier of a position to...
Wasn't the only guy, though.
No, but
there was a bit of a
probably the
conditioning situation.
I do feel like he was the most outwardly easy to see guy that was like, ooh, wow, this... Like, remember that punt against Kansas State?
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, Damon.
I'm pretty sure
big time. I remember the punt.
That's going to be etched into my brain for the rest of my life. And that wasn't Chuba Mai's fault. He shouldn't have been on the field there. But
yeah,
it was just very like jarring to be like, oh my God, this guy is like, he's just not in a good spot right now. Center is an extremely physically demanding position. To be an O lineman, you have to have so much endurance and stamina. And I feel like that's very underrated. Like, people don't talk about that. The O linemen never come off the field. Receivers come off the field. Running backs definitely come off the field. QBs don't, but they're not always doing everything on every play. Sometimes they're handing it off, getting a quick break. O linemen are on every play, working the hardest on the football field.
Full exertion every play. Yeah.
And so you need to be in absolute tip-top perfect shape. And I struggle with the guy who's around 350 pounds. Like, is he going to be able to do that in a no-tempo offense? It'll be interesting to see. But I also liked what he said from the receiver standpoint. I think that, you don't look at a T-Mac, losing a T-Mac can often say like, we're going to get better at that position. But I just think that there is such a, whatever the opposite of an embarrassment of riches is, Kevin, an embarrassment of nothing. At
an embarrassment of
outside of T-Mac last year. And it was proven to you when on the football field. And unfortunately, Kevin, that was what ASU fans and detractors of this team were saying going into this season, was that we'll just double T-Mac. And then what's Noah going to do with the football? And I'm like, you guys are idiots. You guys don't know anything. And then that's kind of exactly what played out all season long. And you had to have a walk-on and Chris Hunter step up. This year you have Nunu Watley, you have Luke Wysong, you have Trey Spivey. I think that there's just a little bit more of a rounded out group of different profiles that all kind of do their own thing. And it's exciting, honestly. I know we haven't seen a lot of these receivers, but you have Watley, who's more of the speedy slot guy. You have Wysong, who's more of the slot possession receiver. Trey Spivey's kind of that big guy. I did love what I heard about Brandon Phelps. I think he's a very interesting prospect. And I think this receiver room has a potential to be a lot of fun, Kevin. But we'll leave it there.
We shall.
And we'll move on to basketball, because I know that's what some of you guys are really hoping that we do here. Yeah, they don't use D linemen for the punt wall anymore, only linebackers. Huge news out of Justin Spears. That's groundbreaking stuff here on the AZ Wildcats podcast.
Justin Spears with a new profile picture, question mark, as well?
Yeah.
A little spiffied up with the red tie and the suit.
Looks like maybe like was on like KVOA
fresh,
or KGUN 9 or something.
You can't probably see it from where you are, Damon, but fresh lineup on the boy, too. Fresh.
Yeah, that's hard. But yeah, let's move into some basketball, Kevin, and I'll kind of let you start things off. A little bit of an interesting weekend in terms of portal news. The transfer portal opening when it does is the biggest joke. I think, can we start there? The fact that the transfer portal is open during bowl season when teams are playing bowl games, and Kevin, during the Final Four in the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16. What are we doing? You had a Michigan player in the Sweet 16 while his team was alive entering the transfer portal, Kevin. It's beyond any sense of reasonability, or it's like, how did no one look at that date when they brought it up and go like, guys, why don't we move it like 2 weeks after that?
Well, hell, why don't you make it midnight after the nets have been cut down in the natty? You just make it midnight. As soon as the scissor makes contact with the nylon, stamp the portal. I don't care.
What a hell of an idea. No one has thought about this before, Kevin. But yeah, it just doesn't really. That doesn't really register with me. I don't understand why that's a thing. But regardless, Arizona loses on Thursday.
Yes.
And KJ Lewis enters the transfer portal
on Saturday.
On Saturday. Emmanuel Stephen enters the transfer portal this morning. Some rumors maybe about a couple other guys here, Kevin. But we'll start with KJ. So I know KJ has been one of mine and your favorite players throughout this past season to watch. We love KJ Lewis. And, it's sad to see him gone. What were your first reactions to KJ Lewis, entering the transfer portal?
Damon, I'm surprised I didn't get a text from you about this exact thing that I'm about to say. But my first reaction to KJ Lewis entering the portal was, what? Do we got to talk to Desiree Reed-Francois? Like, do we got to go all the way up to the top, Damon? Because you and I cannot take a damn day off without some news happening. You and I worked for about 2 weeks straight, Damon, dog. Yeah. You and I were pillar to post for, I was being conservative, pillar to post for about 3 weeks. And no news, no snips, not even a rumor, not even a damn Tweety bird in my window saying KJ Lewis might go. I know. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, you know what? We're going to, me and my girlfriend, we're going to have a nice, I'm going to go to a work event with her and it's going to be fun and we're going to have some drinks. And then all of a sudden, KJ Lewis is in the portal and my day is ruined. But I did end up having fun. But
let's stay there for a second because you're so freaking right, Kevin. The amount of this has happened twice now recently because
I think it's 3 times in a row
because we've been working. Full disclosure, pull back the curtain. I'm sure all of you guys work very hard as well, so I'm not saying anything. But Kevin and I have been grinding throughout this end of this basketball season. It's been fun, and I think we love it. But it's also been a bit of a struggle at times. Especially when you got to get up and do a co-op commitment live stream and then a pregame watch along.
Again, at least we were working that day though.
Yeah.
At least we were already supposed to be in here that day.
But then, we finally get our first day off in a very, very long time. And I'm just sitting there and at like 11 a.m. or whatever it was, just Oh, KJ Lewis in the transfer portal. And I was sitting there and I was like, are we really about to do an emergency podcast right now?
Oh, man.
Didn't end up doing that. But yeah, I think, just as, in terms of KJ is a very fun player to watch. I saw Mike Luke tweeted this and I thought it was an interesting point. So I wanted to bring it up. He said that KJ is like the only player on the team who could lead in every of the major 5 statistical categories on any given night, which I think is totally the truth, right? Like he's the only guy who could somehow be the leading rebounder, and you'd be like, how did he get 9 boards? There was that one game where he had like 8 assists.
That was epic. I'm not gonna lie.
He has crazy scoring output games, and then of course, steals, blocks he brings every night. So he's the best defender on this team. It's tough to lose KJ Lewis, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily detrimental to what you're trying to do next season. I don't know how you feel, Kevin.
I think, Damon Dog, I feel as though while it's not the craziest of losses, especially because of his issues offensively, I would say, Damon.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it's a huge loss from like a toughness standpoint. And I think like the defense, you can't underrate that. I think there are games this year where KJ Lewis kind of kept them in it defensively. Now, people in the chat might say there are games where KJ Lewis took the team out of it with some of his decision-making or with some of his offensive output as well. But, like, I'm thinking about this year's team without KJ Lewis, and, like, obviously, Caleb Love, dog. Jaden Bradley, dog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Some of these players, like, on this team are dogs, and, like, they didn't need KJ Lewis to make them bark. But I think there are some other players on this team that benefited from having a guy that just plays 100 miles an hour every time he's out there as hard as he can for as long as he's out there, Damon. I think that's something you can't really quantify, really. So I'm not trying to say KJ Lewis is like Michael Jordan and that the Arizona Wildcats just lost the greatest player of college basketball history and it's all over and it's all gloom and doom and we're never going to find another one. That's not true, right? I like KJ Lewis, fine player, extremely talented player. Great athlete, great kid by all indications as well. I hope he gets a huge bag wherever he's going. He deserves it, right? But I do think that his production can be replaced, but I do worry about the intangible, like pushing his teammates and being that. I called him the engine for a reason, right? I know it was quite corny, but I know we went back and forth about the nickname, but it started there, right? With his effort and his tenacity and kind of setting the tempo for that night. Because Arizona was a team that could come out flat at times. So I think that is the value of a KJ Lewis right there. And if he wanted a huge bag and you couldn't facilitate that and his production didn't whatever, no, I'm not saying that's what happened, but in the nature of the transfer portal, like, this guy's a sophomore and he's found success at Arizona, was just playing the best team in the country maybe for a shot at the Elite Eight. You know what I mean? So that's where it pushes me. It pushes me in the direction of, okay, KJ Lewis is trying to cash in on things while he can, or I don't know what the reason is, right? But that's where my mind went, Damon, is the intangible stuff that might be missing if KJ Lewis is gone. But who knows? Who knows what Arizona can get in the portal? We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I do think that KJ Lewis is a certainly notable loss. I wouldn't say it's a crippling loss for Arizona by any means.
That's kind of where I was at.
But it's definitely one notch above notable, I would say. Whatever you want to quantify that as.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably like comfortably, like obviously Caleb Love is moving on. You're talking about value, just like value what they're bringing to the table.
Experience.
If say everybody was coming back, I'd say, I'm putting Jaden Bradley ahead of him. I'm putting Henri Veesaar ahead of him. I'm putting...
Are you counting guys coming in? Like, would you put Koapita ahead of him?
Certainly, yeah. I mean, that's probably got more to do with what's going on with KJ Lewis than anything. Here's my stance on it, and again, this is not speaking from a place of knowledge, but and Erica, you're right about that. The staff does move in silence, especially in terms of incoming guys. They don't really let that be known at all. And then you'll find out about one, and you'll be like, Ryan Nembhard is an Arizona Wildcat, and then the next thing you know, he's committed to Gonzaga, and the sky is falling.
Hell, Twitter thought that Koapita was going to ASU or Houston for sure.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, he's got the block A right across his chest. So
I feel like KJ is one of those guys where it's like he's shown a lot of potential, right? And he's been on really good teams. At Arizona, he's like the 5th, 6th most valuable or valued guy, maybe, in terms of like what they're paying him in the program, who they would choose to lose or keep if they had the choice. And there's been a lot of rumors flying about Georgetown being an option for KJ Lewis. that's a school with money. That's a school that would make him maybe the one or two faces of the entire program. I think that's where you're looking at.
Tough history of players there too.
Sure.
Like, no, but I'm saying like he fits there. Like if you're building like, hey, what kind of player do you want to recruit?
Yeah, the reason I say sure is because Georgetown's been ass for 20 years.
I agree. But I think when I think of good Georgetown players, I think like tough, plays hard, dies on the floor kind of guy.
Fits the style, I guess. But I think that's if he was to go to a team like I heard some people say Houston because that's and we've been talking about KJ Lewis is a Houston guy through and through. They recruited him out of high school too.
The heart would break so hard.
If he went to Houston, now all of a sudden, I think that raises some eyebrows for me because he's doing the same role at Houston that he is at Arizona.
I agree.
And I don't know what their NIL situation is, but I would venture to guess Arizona can pay a little bit more. I don't know that to be a fact. I also know that KJ Lewis grew up in Tucson in a part of his life and never grew up in Houston, even though he's from,
And every
West
time
Texas.
he goes to Texas, he posts on his Twitter home game or something, returning home.
Like Houston, that would for me, that would raise a little bit more eyebrows, Kevin, because it would be like, oh, he's leaving to do the same thing that he's doing at Arizona. Him going to Georgetown to me says, oh, he wants a bigger role. He wants to be the face. He wants a little bit maybe more money. And I'm fine with all of those things. Like he can make his choice. That's what transfer portal's for. But it is unfortunate as an Arizona fan, totally. You lose a good role player. You lose a dog. You lose the best defender on the team. And you got to replace that production somehow. You got to find a guy who's a wing defender who can take on that responsibility next season, Kevin.
And before we move on from the KJ Lewis talk to some other notable enters to the transfer portal, not from the University of Arizona, but related to the University of Arizona, I wanted to mention that I don't know that this played a part in any way, Damon. I don't know that, it was even a thought in KJ Lewis and his decision-making group's minds.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you and have the conversation about like the fan reception to KJ Lewis this season. And if you think that maybe that might have played a role in his desire to maybe I hate that I'm saying this about a college athlete, but take a pay cut to stay home, right, in Arizona, right? Like, do you think that if KJ Lewis is being offered a bigger role or a bigger bag at some other school, but maybe the fan reception was better this year, maybe he was more appreciated? And again, I'm not saying that you should not have criticized KJ Lewis, but I do think that some people online went a little bit, crazy with their criticisms of him, but I guess just question for the chat. Do you think that played any role? Just speculating on KJ Lewis returning, not returning, because some players enter the portal and they keep it open. You might be able to return, you might not want to return, but it did the door opened and shut pretty fast.
We had our guy Saul Bookman
Yeah.
confirm with sources close to KJ Lewis that there is no room for an opening here to return to Arizona, but. I guess this would be my answer to this, Kevin, and I want to preface this by saying I really like KJ Lewis. I like him, the person. I like his family. I like him, the player, a lot, and I wish he was part of this team. If that factored into his decision-making, I think that's extremely short-sighted and really, really, really a big mistake. And I'm not saying it's a mistake to leave Arizona. I'm saying that it's a mistake to base your decision based off of what lunatic loud minority of fans say. I
agree.
Because, I really like KJ Lewis. He's your favorite player. There's plenty of people in this fan base that really love and appreciate KJ Lewis. And, I think it'd be I think it'd be extremely just not a mature professional way to approach this sort of situation. If you're people said mean things about me on Twitter, so I have to leave that school. So that's where I'm at with it. If you're really looking at what sports media talking heads are saying and being we can't be here anymore, that's crazy talk. Because there's just as many people saying the other things, you're just not seeking it out, or it doesn't etch into your brain with Sharpie. You know what I mean? The negative comments do. So that's what I would say about it, Kevin.
I do agree with that, and I also agree with our guy Sam in the chat that says no, because I kind of brought this up to you.
Look at the Kansas.
You and I were talking about
Kansas
this
fans this year.
I'm
not saying
exactly.
that's okay, but
no,
they're telling players, to
harm themselves.
And I'm not saying Kansas fans are all scumbags or anything. I think there's plenty of really good Kansas fans, but that's what passionate fans say and do. Stupid things. It's not okay, but it's just I think you gotta, when you're in that position, and again, we're such a lower scale than this, but people say stupid things to us. You can't let it affect you
and this is
just like destroy your show, destroy your day. You kind of just got to keep it moving, man.
And this is what you and I were talking about. We were watching a game, I think, over here. And Damon and I often go back and forth about different fan bases and whether or not they're good, bad, indifferent, or whatnot.
They're all bad.
And I made the point to you, Damon, and I'll reiterate it here that, like, when you deal with larger fan bases, when you deal with fan bases that have, I'll say, more casual followings, I'm not saying that there aren't diehards in every fan base, right? But like the bigger the brand, the more casual eyes you have on your program, your school, your team, your players. So to Sam's point, right? And because there are smaller schools that love basketball that have less psychos, but they just have less fans, right? So like, I don't know, Duke fans, for example, right? This is a great example. Huge program, huge brand. You're going to have so many fans that aren't real fans of A, the sport, or A, the program, that just want to be on a winning side, right? So they could be nasty. And again, to Damon's point, that is not okay. But I think that Sam is right to say that, like, you're going to have insane asylum people no matter what school you're going to, unless you're going to like some liberal arts school.
You know where that's not gonna get better, Kevin? The NBA.
Yeah. Honestly, Georgetown too.
Because he skunks a layup in the NBA and it costs someone their bet, and then all of a sudden they're freaking out inside of the arena.
How
at him.
you and I? Like, oh man, how crazy is it, Damon, that you have to have an advertisement nowadays to tell people, hey man, if you lose your bet, don't DM an athlete threatening them in their life, please. Like, the fact that you have to have a commercial about it.
Let me say this though: whoever's watching that commercial and getting like who's like mid DM up to a player, they're literally like, you bum, you cost me $2,000.
More like,
and then over the background you hear just like, don't be a loser.
Only losers. It's like when the NFL put "end racism" on the back of the helmets and in the end zone. Every racist everywhere was like,
no way.
Oh, I get it now.
Now I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. You should treat everyone equally, regardless of the color of their skin. Okay.
It does it moves mountains, Kevin. We are going to talk about Emmanuel Stephen entering the transfer portal. We're going to talk about some rumors swirling about another Arizona big man or big men potentially. And we'll get into that right here after the break.
Damon, dog, I need gas today.
Okay.
And there's only one spot to go if you need gas, and that is our friends over at Circle K. And if you need other things like water, I needed water yesterday. I get my water delivered and I ran out, so it was delivery day. Went to Circle K, got me a gallon of water, used my Inner Circle rewards, got some points for that, Damon. And you can also get little deals on combos or hot dogs, pulled pop, stuff like that, Damon. So check out Circle K for all their crazy deals. And if you want to be an Inner Circle member like me, you can join the Inner Circle today for free by downloading the Circle K app. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. And I want to remind everybody, April 10th is an Inner Circle Fuel Day where you can save 40 cents per gallon from 6 a.m. to midnight if you are an Inner Circle member. Trying to save you money. Terms and conditions apply. Download that Inner Circle app today.
Kevin, we talk a lot about home court advantage when we're talking about sports, right? When we're on this podcast. I want to talk to you guys about home floor advantage. And that's where Empire Today comes in. It provides a big difference, right? A home is not a home unless that flooring is looking right. And Advantage Empire Today, they're the flooring experts. They're dedicated flooring professionals, and they focus on flooring every single day. This isn't like a side thing, Kevin.
No.
This is their soul.
This is the whole thing.
You could go to a big box store and they got...
You could.
They got all the different home improvement stuff around there, so they're not experts in it. They know a little bit, but they don't know all of it. Empire Today is going to be your flooring experts, and they're going to help you fit you with the best flooring for your home. And guess what? Here's another big thing about it, right? When you go to one of these big box stores, Kevin, and you get new flooring, a lot of times you got it in the back of your pickup truck. You got to rent it out a trailer coming in at home. Empire's going to bring it to you. They're going to install it for you. It's going to be beautiful. We had it done in our other studio, in Studio A over there. And that flooring is immaculate. We've had it for like 6 months now, and there's not a scratch on that thing. It is absolutely beautiful, Kevin.
And we beat up that floor too. We do.
Oh, absolutely.
We put it through the paces.
I mean, we're basically running 5-on-5 games on that.
We're
that
running
floor
5-on-5. We're moving around chairs, tables, this, that, and the third, tripods. So yeah, Damon's right.
Here's the thing about Empire. They're going to give you clear upfront and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. So it's going to be nice and quick for you as well. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. PHNX listeners, you guys will receive a $350 discount when you use promo code PHNX.
Sheesh.
That's right, $350. Discount code PHNX. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/PHNX for full details.
All right, Damon.
Let's
I
talk
know
some Emmanuel Stephen ball.
I know that we have some bigs to talk about here, and I think we should talk about Emmanuel Stephen as well here, because Damon Dog, I'm not surprised by this. Erica Day had a really funny tweet. Go check out her Twitter about it. Pretends to be shocked.
Spaces tonight, 8 p.m.
Spaces tonight at 8 p.m. Yes. But yeah, Damon,
I'll try to be on time.
Emmanuel Stevens enters the transfer portal. Shocked, not shocked. How are you feeling today?
I'm
about
pretty
this
shocked.
Emmanuel Stevens.
I'm pretty shocked, and here's why. And this has been outlaid by other people, so it's not like this is like this isn't my original thought, but it was the first place my mind went to, Kevin. This is a guy who there were rumors, right, throughout the season that Tommy Lloyd and co wanted to redshirt him. They wanted to keep him on ice for a year, like they did with Henri Veesaar last year, and give him 4 years of eligibility moving forward. All the rumors were that Emmanuel Stephen was the reason that did not happen. Because he was telling, especially with the Mo Krivas injury, he told Tommy, like, if you guys need me, I want to be out there playing valuable minutes for the team. Very respectable, Kevin. But here's where that's weird to me. He transfers. He's the second transfer out. Seems like he was probably planning on transferring the entire time. Why would you burn your redshirt year and use a year of eligibility when you know probably that you're not coming back next season? And maybe that decision wasn't made until a little bit more recently. I find that a little hard to believe because hypothetically on paper, Awaka, Krivas, and Veesaar can all come back next season, right? So it doesn't make a ton of sense for him to be a sophomore sitting for another year. But kind of an interesting way that this whole situation is played out, honestly.
It is interesting when you frame it like that, Damon. I kind of was just thinking about it from a pure, like, how much clock would Emmanuel Stephen get next season?
It makes sense from that regard, but it's like, why would you burn that redshirt year?
You're right.
And then, because you could have 4 going into the portal, you'd be even more valuable. You got a year of experience at Arizona. You practiced against high-quality big men every day for an entire season. And then you have 4 years left afterwards. It's just really weird to me to be like, I want to help this team win. And then be like, I'm out the second the team loses, right? I don't know.
Like I said, when you put it like that, it makes a lot more sense in my eyes, at least. Not makes a lot more sense, but what you're saying makes a lot of sense, Damon. But no, I wasn't personally surprised. Like I said, I was taking it more from a how much space would he have on next year's rotation kind of perspective, and I think that's still rumored. Like it's still out, right? You still could speculate on that. So I'm not. I'm just not surprised by the Emmanuel Stephen potential exit and endeavor into the portal. Nowadays, you just gotta fit in where you get in, right, Damon? And if you can't get into the starting 5 or, top 7 or 8 of the rotation next year, Damon, then I think, like you said, you still have 4 years of eligibility left. Why not go use that somewhere where you can really be a featured piece if that's what you want for yourself, Damon? But I wanted to go ahead.
I want to bring this into a positive light, and I did this with the KJ Lewis news right away, Kevin. And I think that one was a little bit more wishful, and I said it specifically in the tweet. But I said right away, like, maybe this means Carter Bryant might be coming back. I do think that this Emmanuel Stephen news means something in regards to Arizona's front court situation.
Totally agree.
Like,
it feels like a decision has been made for what.
To me, that sounds like
path.
And we'll get into this here right now. Henri Veesaar, there's been rumors this weekend that he's entering the transfer portal, and that one threw me for a loop, Kevin. Because KJ Lewis, like, I could see that building up. I think you could too. Yeah. Henri Veesaar makes no sense. He should be told going into next year, you're the 5. You're the starting 5. Even over Tobe Awaka, who's did nothing to lose that spot this year, I will say. But I think Henri Veesaar is the guy that you need to give the baton to. So it's weird that rumor would even start. I'm hoping here that this has something to do with that situation, that maybe Henry's coming back. maybe Krivas is coming back as well. And Emmanuel Stephen looks at that and goes, that's
what I'm saying.
Really
yeah.
high quality big men. I'm not going to find much, if at all, playing time.
Yeah.
Time
and you
for
think,
me.
could I maybe move to the 4 in a big lineup? And then you think, well, there's Tobe, an incoming Koa Pete, and a possibly returning Carter Bryant.
Yeah.
And you're sitting around. That's what I was saying. You still have 4 years of eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you kind of framed it in a different way, but I'll flip your framing like this, Damon. You redshirt, you burned your redshirt, whatever you want to call it, right? This past season where you asked to play and you didn't get the clock that you thought you were going to get, right? You also got a ton of really great experience, like you said, against 2 different looking bigs that also offer some of the highest level in their respective skills that you can get, right? So if you're Emmanuel Stephen, you still have 4 years of eligibility left. Why not take all the learning that you've done at Arizona and go be like the starting 5 at some other school and apply it and look awesome and maybe get some, maybe next year you're getting some different sniffs from some different scouts. You know what I mean? Just with more reps. So I think this could end up being a really great thing for him personally. And I also wanted to mention our guy Rick Barron's in the chat that asked, is Henry actually considering leaving? We don't know. We can't tell you if he's actually considering it. Would have to be in his brain for that. But there are no concrete articles, rumors about him actually leaving. It's kind of just reading the tea leaves and seeing online there are people talking about maybe Henri Veesaar does enter the portal, but nothing too concrete as of yet.
Nothing concrete, but there are whispers. Like people are have been saying it for a few days now. Here's where I want to go with this conversation, Kevin. And a couple of people have this outlined in the chat. What I can't have happen is Henri Veesaar leaves this program because Mo Krivas is being handed the starting job. This is not 1980s basketball. This is not early 2000s, throw the ball in the post to Al Jefferson and let him back a guy down. Henri Veesaar in 2025 is a more valuable center for a winning basketball team, especially a Big 12 basketball team, than Mo Krivas would be. And I like Mo Krivas, and I want Mo Krivas as part of this team next year. I hope that he's back as well. But if it comes down to one or the other, it's a simple decision for me, Kevin. And I got to be honest, I think that would, like, I'm not going to be out on Tommy Lloyd. Obviously, we all know that, how big of Tommy guys both of us are. But that would definitely, like, my thought process and feeling about Tommy would drop down a significant level if that was the case, because it would make me think that he thinks that like Umar Ballo, Tabelis Twin Towers style is actually, helping towards winning basketball games. And in my opinion, in this conference, you need more of the Tobe Awakas, the Henri Veesaars, the guys who are going to run up and down the floor, get vertical, be rim protectors, be dogs on the boards, not the stiffs that are going to back you down and give you hook shots and whatnot. So, I hope Krivas comes back, but priority has to be Henri Veesaar. Has to be.
I think you're right. Like, I think the priority needs to be Veesaar. He could. I said it on Twitter earlier this year. He could be a conference of the player. What the hell am I trying to say? Conference Player of the Year type of candidate guy.
And Icy Mike says it here. Mo would have been great in the Pac-12, 100%. He would have given you
a double every night,
17 and 11 in the Pac-12, and so Umar Ballo was awesome in the Pac-12. And then we played Princeton, and he had no idea what was going on because, frankly, I like Umar Ballo a lot as a person, and I was rooting for him all year at Indiana this year, but he's not a winning basketball player when it comes to the tournament. That style and that brand is just outdated, Kevin. That's Hunter Dickinson. Look at what he did to Kansas when he showed up. He's the biggest profile transfer Kansas has had since the transfer portal opened. He's one of the biggest transfer guys in terms of just like who they were going into it ever in any sport. And he went to Kansas and they finished like 5th and 6th in 2 successive seasons with Hunter Dickinson as the focal point of the team. And they were ranked really high going into both of those years. I just don't think that style is conducive to winning basketball in this day and age.
One thing I think maybe that we are, I'll say, underrating is this point from MD Tell in the chat that says, let's not forget how much Tommy has invested in the Krivas. And I don't know about the investment particularly, but I do want to speak to it. And we've talked about this with Townsend and ADO this past season, right? It does feel like once Tommy Lloyd sees something in a player that he for lack of a better phrase, gets fixated on trying to bring that out of them on the court.
Yeah.
Because he knows that he's seen it and it can happen. So, I think maybe there is something to the idea that once Tommy Lloyd kind of sinks his teeth into a prospect, that he wants to finish that meal. You know what I mean? He wants to complete that.
True, yeah.
He wants to complete that journey, and I think that's a good point. And maybe
Mo has great touch. He's huge, but I just don't like he to me, like, Arizona was a lot worse of a basketball team when he was on the floor versus when Henri Veesaar was the main big man. And if you're watching with our streaming partners, head on over to gophnx.com. We're going to round out this discussion here.
That was a buzzer beater.
It was a buzzer beater. Do we have OT set up in here or no?
We don't. We're just doing like a. We're just gonna do like a shootout. This ain't quite overtime, but it's a shootout. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I agree with you. I think that Tommy does look at that and he sees it almost as like a incomplete task.
Yes.
Almost, where it's like I have to squeeze the juice out of this prospect. And I appreciate that about Tommy Lloyd. That's part of who he is as a coach. It's why he's a great coach. But that being said, he needs to make some tough decisions when it comes down to it. I think he did last year. I think he has become a little bit more cutthroat when it comes to that stuff, Kevin. But ultimately, like he will be judged based off of how this front court situation plays out because there's a lot of options. Will Tobe Awaka enter the transfer portal? I mean, it certainly makes a lot of sense if he did, right? Because he's a senior. I think you take the guys with multiple years of eligibility over him. He's a great player. Tobe did everything that was asked of him this year. But it's mostly just about like he could play 32 minutes a game on a good team, on a top 25 team.
Yeah.
So will he want to come back and play 20 for this team? That's where I struggle with. But I mean, I don't really agree with MD Tell when he says that there's Henri recency bias. Brother, that's been over the course, or sister, that's been over the course of
or sibling
of an entire season. This isn't a small sample size.
No, yeah.
This has been the entire season. And when Arizona was making a comeback versus Duke, it was Caleb Love hitting tough shots, right, Kevin? And it was Henri Veesaar and one dunking on people to swing the momentum.
Hammers.
Yeah. And that's every late game this year when Arizona was opening up against teams, it was Henri Veesaar dunking on people's heads. He was the closer. Like, genuinely, he was the closer. So, like, I just feel like you can't lose that guy. And I don't think it is short-sighted. I don't think it is a small sample size. I think that this has been played out and we've seen it. And I've seen now, we can talk about the investment in Mo Krivas, and I'm with it. I agree with it. That being said, I've seen more from Henri Veesaar in 2 seasons than I have from Mo Krivas in 2 seasons now, Kevin. It's not even close. It's not even remotely close. So that's where the decision makes it easy for me.
I agree with you, Damon, and I feel like, what Veesaar has shown over the course of the season, like you alluded to, almost has earned him a spot. Like these things unfortunately happen in sports, right? Where you have a player who is, we always make such crazy comparisons on accident, but it's the biggest, most notable example of this, right? You have a player like Drew Bledsoe who is a good quarterback that, your franchise would want to put at the helm of the program,
10.
right? Yeah.
Top 10 at the time.
Yeah, right? And then he gets injured and up steps, Tom Brady, and you're thinking, okay, maybe he can be a serviceable fill-in. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, maybe is he better than Bledsoe? And you have to start, it makes a difficult choice, right? Because you almost have to choose. And I think that's kind of what the spot Tommy Lloyd is in, right? Because I don't know. Ben says start both. I think I would love to see it, just to see like what it looks like. But I do worry about some things with that. But I like they offers like Henri Veesaar is so versatile that I think he actually could be out there with Krivas. But yeah, it's a tough choice for Tommy Lloyd for sure. It's a tough decision for the coaching staff as well. And if you're Krivas, you must be feeling like, well, damn. Like I woke up the starter and I woke up the guy, and by the end of the season, I
and it's not really
now
it's
now
not
I don't
really
even
his
know
fault.
if I'm no, it's not. And that's why, like, if you're him, it must be so like mind-numbingly wild that all this is going on, because I'm sure you love your guy Henri Veesaar as your teammate, but you're probably thinking as a competitor, like, I'm better than him. I'm the better guy. So it's going to be interesting to see, Damon. I don't know if
I hope Krivas comes back. I hope he comes out. I know that Ben says start both. I really hope that he does not start both, because I've seen the Twin Towers before, and I don't think in the Big 12 that plays at all. I think in the Pac-12 it does, or the Big 10 where the oafs go crazy in the Big 10. Dude, they love oafs in the Big 10. But I I hope Krivas comes back, gets a lot of minutes, comes off the bench, provides a bench scoring spark for this team. Veesaar goes to the draft, and then Krivas steps in next year and is like one of the focal points of the entire offense. That's what my ideal world would be in terms of this scenario. But listen, I here in the chat, JR says Koa, Carter Bryant, and Burry's squad would be diabolical.
It would be.
I think that's that's where we're sitting, right? That is a picture perfect scenario for Arizona right now. We have Koa Pete in the fold. Braden Burry says he's going to commit in the next 1 to 2 weeks here. It certainly is trending in Arizona's direction as of right now. He took his most recent visit to us. He's really good friends with Carter Bryant. He plays on Strive for Greatness with Bryce James. I think if you connect all the dots, it definitely seems like Braden Burry's. He plays that Caleb Love role, which is now suddenly wide open, Kevin. We need a combo guard who is a primary scorer as kind of their play. So I think that we're looking at Braden Burry as being that guy, right? And then it all comes down to Carter Bryant there, and I think in that equation, because I do believe we will get Braden Burry's. Koa Pete obviously got him. And I think Carter Bryant is like the final piece to that puzzle where it's like if he comes back, you're looking at a top 5 team in the country preseason next year.
Yeah, you spoke to
it. You could still be even top 10, top 5, but if he does come back, I think that's like a guarantee almost.
Yeah, and you spoke to it, like the connection between Burry's and some of the other players already existing on the team. The McDonald's All-American festivities are underway, Damon. We got Braden Burry's highlights on Twitter from the scrimmages. We also have Koa Pete talking a little bit about recruiting Braden Burry's to Arizona men's basketball. Quote, I think me and him would complement each other very well. He didn't say very, but very well. Koa Pete says there, and he also
what an answer, huh?
He also said
Koa Pete, king of the sound of the quote,
so loquacious. And then we also had Braden Burry saying Koa Pete has been in his ear about coming to Arizona men's basketball, but also that Eric Musselman and Elijah Arenas are pitching USC hoops and staying home. That last sentence terrifies me, to be honest with you, considering the fact that Eric Musselman was already able to pluck Elijah Arenas from Arizona earlier in this cycle. And
it seems like I will say, Kevin, I based off of rumors and stuff, it seems as though Arizona kind of allowed that to happen. And I don't want to say that they like just.
I know what you mean, though.
I think that they kind of backed off Elijah Arenas in the final moments of his recruiting because
we got Elijah Arenas at home. His name's Braden Burry's.
I think that they felt that Braden Burry's was the better prospect and the more gettable guy potentially.
Yeah. But I did
find
that does
odd.
Terrify me, though, right?
Is that not the same profile? That's so USC, though.
But
it's
if
just
you're
like,
USC,
hey, let's get 5 volume scorers and put them on one team together, and you're like, wow, that team's gonna suck ass. Like that team won't make the tournament. I like Muss too. Muss is a good coach, and he makes tournament most of the time. But Kevin, if you were to just get like 5 guys that need the ball in their hands at all times, like that's the Phoenix Suns. We've seen that this year. It's garbage basketball. It is.
No, it is. But that terrified me because if Eric Musselman steals another one of our high-profile guard targets, Damon, I might just spontaneously combust.
That would be pretty brutal.
Into 1,000 pieces.
That would be pretty brutal.
But yeah, that is our Braden Burry note in news. He like you said, narrowed it down to his top 5, and he said he's going to make a decision here coming down in about the next 2 weeks. So probably after all this McDonald's All-American stuff kind of calms down, he can go back home, make a final decision, maybe get some last calls in with some coaches or whatever he's got to do.
Sure. Right,
Damon? And before we get out of here, real quick, I wanted to mention other notable transfers that are in the portal with some Arizona ties, Damon. Philip Borovichkinen. Philip is back.
Philly B
is back in the portal. The Wildcat, the Lobo.
That's a pro move right there.
It is a
Kevin.
pro move.
You gotta find a way.
It is a pro move.
One of my favorites is like Big O. Like you just like there's on the Cowboys Oso Digizua.
Wow.
He signed a big contract this offseason, and Johnny was looking at that name and just couldn't say it on PHNX Cardinals, and I was like, Big O. Like you gotta find something and just run with it.
No, you're right. Like I like to take the big swing at it. You know what I mean?
Big Mo. Like I'm not gonna attempt Motiejus or whatever.
Isn't it just Motiejus?
Is it?
Isn't it just Motiejus Krivas? It's Motiejus. So Motiejus. Again, I'm not the gatekeeper of pronunciation. I'm having a conversation with you in the chat and Damon trying to figure this out.
I'm certainly not. That's why I brought it up. Big Mo.
Yeah, exactly. Flory Badunga in the portal to Kansas, the McDonald's All-American, 5-star guy. At least I'm pretty sure he was a 5-star guy.
He was kind of underwhelming.
But also didn't get the run in the
kind of a foul machine though. No,
kind of. He had a really good game towards the end of their season. I forget who it was against. Maybe Houston.
He was playing behind Hunter Dickinson.
Yes.
To be fair,
yeah,
so.
Tough spot for Flory Badunga,
Yeah.
but he's one guy with a huge upside. A lot of coaches I'm hearing are really high on him as well. And then the main event of the other notables here, Kerr Kriisa. Damon, are we bringing him home? What's happening?
God no. That's where if Kerr Kriisa comes back home, that's where Kevin finds a new co-host for this podcast.
Wait, so you're telling me my lion eyes? You're telling me, Damon, that Caleb Love leaves and the best player to fill his shoes is not Kerr Kriisa?
I think I just got a little bit of nausea popping up.
I have a trash can over here. I do have a trash can over here for you, Damon. Where does Kerr Kriisa go next, man?
I don't know. This guy
end up?
He keeps getting away with it. I have no idea. He's Arizona, West Virginia, Kentucky is an insane trio of schools. Next thing you know, he's gonna be like Syracuse's starting point guard next year or something. Kevin,
imagine he finds his way to Georgetown.
That's what I said. I see Mike. I said, how the hell is this guy still playing?
How does he still have classes to go?
He agreed, Ben. He has to be 30. He didn't play this entire season too.
Yeah, he got hurt.
Yeah, so did he redshirt? Did he get an extra year?
I don't think so. Pretty sure he got hurt halfway through the year.
Maybe he'll play this year and then he'll appeal for another one next year and get another year.
The Pavia suit. The Pavia suit.
Watch him go to a Syracuse or I'm trying to think of a basketball program that is a basketball program but kind of down bad right now. You know what I mean?
Nick Wilson, Kerr to ASU.
Sure.
He'll join that other kid that's been to 4 schools.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, dude. Georgetown is another good example of it, right?
Sorry, I was laughing at Icy Mike's comment that I certainly won't be putting on the stream, but it is out of pocket hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But
BYU? I mean, he's an okay bench option, I guess, but I mean, he's certainly a streaky shooter and not a very good ball handler or playmaker for being a point guard that, his main contribution to the team is his ability to shoot from deep, and that's even shaky at times. I'm not a big fan of Kerr Kriisa's game. And yeah, I'll be interested to see where he winds up, but God help us if it's Arizona. Hopefully it's who will be older, Jamal Baker or Kerr Kriisa. Pretty sure Jamal Baker is still playing basketball somehow. Dude, that guy played for 7 years of college basketball, Kevin. You
can really hack the system, Damon.
Are you familiar with his game?
Yeah, I am. And you can really hack the system.
Dude, he was. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he was cold one of his last couple years. No, not really. He averaged 12 points at Fresno State.
Lukewarm.
He did play 6 seasons though, 140 games of college basketball for
140 games of college basketball is unbelievable.
It is.
That's
really
over an entire NBA. That's an NBA season plus a playoff run plus a preseason run.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane, Damon dog.
Kevin, I know that we had a bunch of names written down and you had stuff written on all these people.
I do. Yeah.
Do you want to hold on to that and holster it, or do you want to run down a few of them real quick and just let people at home know some of your favorite targets?
I'll run down a few of the transfer targets for Arizona real quick, just because things can change so fast. I don't want to, And we'll get. What if I call them all? Right? I don't want to be wrong.
We'll get into it more tomorrow as well.
We'll actually dive into it.
I think today, obviously there's some portal stuff that happened this weekend that kind of became the news. Hopefully there's not a bunch more portal entries, Kevin, and we can just get to talking about additions rather than subtractions. But I digress. You go ahead.
No, you're right. I'm definitely ready to start talking about some additions. But I was doing some scouting this morning of players that I think Arizona realistically could be going after, Damon dog. Obviously your Donovan Dent, who's already picked a school, your Stirtz, who's already picked a school. You have players who Arizona's never going to be going after because, either the bag is too much or they already have a coach that they're following or whatnot, right? So these are some players that I think Arizona should or could be targeting. Tyrone Riley the fourth, Damon dog.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona already had a Zoom call with him.
Seems like you had to think about if it was the 4th, 5th.
Bad with numbers.
Maybe a 3rd.
Bad with numbers. Tyrone Riley the 4th with confidence that time. Freshman from USF, University of San Francisco, Damon. He's a lefty. I thought that was interesting. I also thought he was under recruited coming out of high school because he broke his leg in high school as well. So I thought that was interesting. You might be able to get a higher ceiling on a guy. 6'6", 6'10.5" wingspan on Tyrone as well. But like I said, the most important part is Arizona's already met with him. He has 3 teams that he's down to: Creighton, Texas, and Arizona. They've all had Zooms, and so that's already been completed. So you might actually be seeing Tyrone Riley in an Arizona kit here, not too distant here as well. So yeah, I thought he was a good decision maker. Very, very mature and well-spoken for being a freshman. I'm not saying that because he just could put together basic sentences. I'm saying like the ideas were very mature of, overcoming adversity and knowing, for example, Damon, he, as a guy who was highly touted coming out of high school, he's talking about talent over politics. He's talking about how I know there are 2 things that get me on the court, and that's defense and good shot making. Mm-hmm. And this is a kid that you want on your basketball team, Tyrone Riley.
Yeah, definitely an interesting profile.
Yeah, very talented, active off ball.
I would say I feel like I want Tommy to target guys like that more than I want him to target like Keyshawn Halls.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
and that's another guy we should mention. Keyshawn Hall from UCF, their leading scorer, averaged about 20 points per game this year. He entered the portal. That's a guy who's going to go to like a Kentucky or like a school like that.
I think they said
he'll be one of the main pieces, but I'm not sure Arizona's going to target those type of players. Even though Caleb Love, to be fair, Caleb Love was that type of player, and it worked out a lot. Also, Arizona hired Steve Robinson, kind of brought Caleb Love with him. They don't have that anymore, but I want to see Tommy go after more of like the hidden gems at lower programs that he thinks really fit into his system, are efficient players at the lower level. He sees the ability for that, for a little bit of growth there. Like that Tyrone Riley shout is a good one, like a lengthy, efficient freshman who played at a decent-sized program, but not like a big program.
And he just wants to get in where he fits in and play good
room
ball.
For development, and then also wouldn't be opposed to having a bench role for a season or 2.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Next, I'll give you 2 more here real quick. Keontae Jones, senior from CSUN. I thought, CSUN. When you're talking basketball, you got to talk CSUN.
For sure.
It's 6'6".
Duke, UNC, CSUN, Michigan State, 100%.
Yeah, Damon. Keontae Jones, senior, so that's kind of an interesting thing there. Senior at a lower level. Like, you've already had some time. That's interesting. But 6'6", he's really smooth driving to the rim. Looks so silky getting in and out of his little Euro moves. Good catch and shoot. He's in the 85th percentile of catch and shoot. He's aggressive on the putbacks. Like, when he sees the ball flying off the rim, he is looking to hammer it home if he can. Overall, I just think well-rounded guy. If you're talking about someone as a senior that can come in and contribute on the margins, I think Keontae Jones is a pretty good shout there. And then one more realistic one, I think, and there are actually a couple Maryland players that I was going to mention.
Yeah.
But, I think they're on probably the lower end of realistic because you're coming from such a popular program like the Crab 5 run this year. You're probably trying to cash in more than you're trying to go to a different high-level program, right? But I want to mention Makai Mason, 6'5" junior from Washington, Damon, played in the Big Ten this past year. He's from Chandler, from Gilbert, that area, so I thought that maybe there could be some past connections, maybe some recruitment in the past as well. He spent 2 years at Rice before he transferred to Washington. He shot 40% from the 3 last season on some decent volume, 40% from right above the break threes as well. 18% of his total attempts came from that exact spot. And he has range, 8 threes from over 25 feet or more, Damon, and 64% on catch and shoot 3 opportunities. Excuse me. So I actually think Makai Mason at 6'5", while he's not like the thickest player, he's not maybe the physically strongest of players. I mean, Anthony Delorso found, and I'm not trying to, bag on ADO, but Anthony Delorso was able to find good run, good clock this season for Arizona, really offering 0 defense, 0 physicality. So I think Makai Mason could find his role in Arizona's lineup if you are looking for a guy that can shoot the ball, do a little bit of everything from an offensive perspective. He's not great off the dribble, but if you have Jaden Bradley or even a Braden Burries, you really wouldn't need him to do much off the dribble as well, Damon. And then real quick, the other names I was thinking of, Cannon Catchings from BYU is in the portal.
I take him 100%.
Yep, young. He can
just to piss Saul off and with his shooting form.
Was it him? I thought it was Mag. I thought it was Mag that he didn't like his shot.
Well, I remember specifically he was talking about Catchings, but maybe he got them mixed up.
Yeah. Or maybe the shot selection was bad. I don't know. But Jacoby Gillespie is in the portal from Maryland. He's a talented player. He just entered the portal like an hour ago, right before we started the show. Rodney Rice is a player I think Arizona, if you're going from Maryland, if you're shopping the bargain bin at Maryland. They got everybody in the portal right now. Rodney Rice now, nice outside shooter. 43, 37, 81 splits on him.
Yeah.
And then that's pretty much my list right there, Damon. Jacoby Gillespie, Makai Mason, Rodney Rice, Cannon Catchings, Keontae Jones, and Tyrone Riley the fourth. There's also that guy from Colorado State that I sent you on Twitter when he entered the portal the other day. I forget his name, but maybe Kean Evans, I think it might be his name.
It is. That is his name.
I saw he entered the portal. Really good player from Colorado State. If you watch Colorado State this year, you know Kean Evans' ball. And I sent you that tweet the other day. So hopefully Arizona
needs a backup guard who can handle the ball, come off the bench. I've talked about like a Justin Kier type.
Yeah.
You don't need him necessarily to be like a world beater, but you just need a guy who can handle the rock and give you 10 points on any given night, which Arizona didn't really have last season. You have Conrad Martinez, who played sparingly, but I'll be honest, guys. Like, I know people get mad at me when I say this, Kevin, and I don't really understand why. Like, I don't need to see Conrad Martinez in competitive games. Seeing Conrad Martinez against Duke is not what I'm looking for.
And even if he plays okay, right? It's like the fact that he's in the game is the crux of the thing, right? Again,
I want to see Conrad and Bryce James play a lot together next year. That's my goal. You know what I mean? Like, I hope that they're not playing a lot of competitive basketball games. I hope that we're bringing off that unit with 3 walk-ons and up 25 with 2 minutes left and letting them get some run in. But
can I leave us? I feel like I have the perfect positivity note to leave us on.
Real quick,
I have
one other portal entry that I wanted to speak on real quick. Lamar. Well, he was at Lamar initially. His name's Nate Calmese. He is from the state of Arizona. Kevin, I'll have to show you this after the show. If anyone recognizes that name, he hit a buzzer beater 3/4 court in the state championship in Arizona a couple years ago when I was covering high school sports here. You could clearly see in the video, Kevin, finger on his hand when the buzzer goes off. They count it because there's no replay in Arizona high school basketball. And even though people have video of him with the ball in his hands as the buzzer is going off, and Nate Calmese's team wins the state championship, even though he didn't get the shot off, pretty hilarious. But I will say
that's crazy.
Yes. So he went to Lamar out of high school. He's a lower level recruit, didn't do much or wasn't considered very high. 17 points per game at Lamar on 48% shooting. Heard from these schools when he entered the transfer portal in 23, Kevin. He heard from Cincinnati, New Mexico, Arkansas, SMU, Arizona, GCU, Loyola Marymount, San Francisco, Portland, Southern Utah, and others. This season, he was at Washington State, where he transferred to. And at Washington State, it was weird. He went to Lamar, Washington State. But at Washington State,
he went to Washington, had the rivalry game, and was like,
yeah,
you know what? Those Cougs aren't so bad, honestly.
Yeah. Especially, I think that season, Washington was really bad, and Washington State was actually pretty solid.
That's really funny.
Washington State, he averaged 15 points per game last year at Washington State. He's a smaller guard. He's a junior. He's from Gilbert. 47% shooting. I think he's not really a playmaking type of point guard, but he's a guy who can be a combo guard, provide some scoring punch off the bench. Interesting dude. He's a guy they've hit up before. Just someone that I think, you gotta factor in and just be like, hey, maybe he's a bench option for this team. I just want to throw that name out there. But our guy AZ Catch G with his quintessential buzzer beater, Derek Queen style.
Yeah,
Kevin.
yeah.
$2 super chat. Final 4 picks were Arizona, Houston, Florida, and CSUN.
I mean, that's
a damn fact.
A real bracket buster. You know what I mean? CSUN not making it past the round of 64. You know what I mean?
The committee really effed up not putting CSUN in this year. I will say they actually had a decent team this year, but
they did, yeah.
Because I bet on the grossest West Coast basketball, and CSUN is definitely a part of that.
Gross.
Evan Nelson, yeah, I remember Evan Nelson.
But yeah, I like that you and I both gave 2 possible
Evan Nelson went to my
targets.
high school. Yeah, he did. That's right.
I like that you and I gave 2 possible transfer targets from the state of Washington schools that also have Arizona ties, but we also gave them from different Washington schools. So I thought that was a little fun thing there, Damon, as well.
That's gonna do it, Kevin.
It is.
That's a long show on a Monday.
A lot of transfer talk. We get off for 2 days, and all of a sudden we got a yap for almost 2 hours.
We had to update our people at home on spring football. What's going on with that? Because we haven't talked a lot of football recently. But
shout out Jay Spears.
Shout out Justin Spears. Follow him at Justin E Sports. we will be talking transfer portal and Arizona basketball offseason for the rest of the summer, basically, Kevin, and just kind of how we go from here. We'll be building out, I think, our own ideal rosters sometime this week, maybe as a little bit more news flows in here. But excited to do it the whole time with all of you fine folk. Drop a like on this video, 45 likes. Had a lot of people watching today. We appreciate all of you so much. That's where we do our blood brothers initiation and sisters. But drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Our guy Kevin won't get enough sleep with 45 likes. We need at least 100. But yeah, some OT on a Monday, AZ Catch G. That is damn right. We will be back tomorrow on a Tuesday. We'll be here at 12 p.m. We will see all of you guys then. But until then, peace out, bear down.
And go Cats. Please, no more of you leave.
And Spaces at 8 p.m.
We all silly like the mayor.